Well, now that the Brown and MIT, as it turns out, stories connected, shooter scumbag has been caught. What did we learn about this whole affair? What's the takeaway on this? Well, I'm telling you, this was a lesson in deadly incompetence. In fact, I'd like to suggest this, just kind of popped into my head. Let's rename DEI to deadly everyday incompetence, because that's what we learned here. And there's a reason why this story lasted so long. First of all, is because they couldn't find this person. We know all about that. We know about the details and the security cameras and all the other stuff till they finally found him dead, shot himself. We get that. But what was the real reason why people paid such close attention to this story for what? Was this 6-7 days in a row? First and foremost, human nature being what it is, people love true crime, a caper, a mystery, right? That's just what it is. People love that kind of crap. The second thing was more important, I think. This was a true wake-up call. This was one of those stories. You see, academic, government, of course, even corporate incompetence every day. We've all felt it. We've all seen it. This was a glaring example of how deadly it can be. That's what I think got people to keep tuning into this Brown University story throughout the entire thing and beyond, and still will. Because I think for the most part, not you, not me, because we've seen this stuff, but for most people who just don't pay attention, I think this was a wake-up call, and they realized, my God, what kind of people do we have in charge in major institutions? Anyway, we'll give you the tail of the tape on that one. Also, here's a fun story. My favorite story of the week so far. Is Trump going to be known as the POTUS? The pot president? And what's been fun for me is to watch the reaction from a lot of Trump supporters, because they're really divided on this one. So he rescheduled it yesterday at the executive order, which you probably signed. The reaction has been fun on this, but there's a reason why he did it. And to wrap it up, we are less than a week away from Christmas now, so that means you are really in the holiday travel season right now. So if you're flying anywhere, the TSA has some travel advice for you, which is actually they're doing a really good job of public outreach. We'll talk about that. Thanks for finding Wicked Radio, the live stream, and the replay lives on all your favorite social media channels and the audio podcast too, wherever you like to get them. Let's get right into it. All right, tail of the tape. What do we know? Who is this scumbag that they finally caught? Well, they did catch him technically, right? Wound up shooting himself in a warehouse in Salem, New Hampshire. So this thing crossed a few different New England states. Anyway, here's let's start with the press conference yesterday from the police chief, who was talking about who the suspect was.
An individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valenti, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student. He was a Portuguese national. And his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there. So the process is...
All right, and you know by now they caught him. They did track him down. So I can technically say caught him, because the state police there in Massachusetts did finally, they did a good job, and they rushed into the building. They coward scumbag shot himself, whatever. But you heard there from the police chief, more on him in a second, talking about this from the original investigation. Had been a Brown student, was readmitted into the physics PhD program, not a U.S. national. And now we know, confirmed by all news sources and the investigators, that this shooting was indeed connected to the MIT shooting, which happened a couple of days later. If you didn't follow that story, there was an MIT professor who was shot in his home in Massachusetts. Connected. Now, connected might tell you avoidable. Avoidable how, Bill? Who could have known? Well, nobody could have known except the ridiculous scumbag shooter. But you know what would have prevented that? If you had cameras around campus. Any ID, anything. They weren't holding anything back. What they had, they showed you. Remember when they asked for the public's help in finding this guy? And that was off of Ring doorbell cameras and business cameras that happened to be around the area. Not on campus, because as we talked about yesterday, that is confirmed. Those cameras were disabled. They didn't even exist, because in the summer of 2025, not too long ago, it was in August, those cameras were disabled by Brown University because of civil rights groups, human rights groups, mostly, as we found out in the news stories last night, reportedly from pro-Palestinian groups, who pressured DEI head of Brown, you'll hear from her here in a second, to take them down. Okay, so they could protest and not be identified and threaten other people. And the whole story, right? But the great thing, or one of the great things that's come out of this whole thing, besides people waking up to the deadly effects of incompetence and DEI, was the reporters as well on the scene. Start to finish, all of them. We heard from that Hispanic radio host yesterday just grilling these people. And then there's this guy grilling the president of Brown University about disabling those cameras. Fantastic.
Video played a big role in this case. The neighbor's video, the rental car video, but not the video from the building that he walked in freely both before when he got in the confrontation and when he came back in and decided to kill people. You didn't have cameras in that building. Just say it so we can get this over. And my next question is, will you put cameras in
follow-up.
Will
Yeah.
you put the cameras in that building? Will
Yeah.
there be more cameras in that building?
Yeah, you know, I think we need to look back. We'll look at everything that is done, but I do not think a lack of cameras in that building it had anything to do with what happened there. And we will go forward. Thank you.
No, not at all. No. It's just, you could have caught him before that. And let's remember the timeline here. You could have an MIT professor alive today if you had actual working security cameras and you were able to catch this shooter right away. But that had nothing to do with anything. You're going to hear this word a lot. Incompetence. Deadly incompetence. No, it had nothing to do with this. And then she just scurries away. By the way, and that's an administrator, DEI administrator, making close to $3.5 million a year. That's neither here nor there. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay. But it had nothing to do with anything. Okay, right. Let me ask you this for the legal experts in the audience, and you can throw a comment at me or DM or whatever it is. Would it be possible, now that we know, and it's been confirmed, that Brown University disabled the security cameras, they couldn't catch this guy, family of the MIT professor who was killed a couple of days later by apparently this same guy, would they be able to go back and sue Brown University for negligence because they weren't able to identify this guy because they disabled the security camera? Like, is that a real thing that would ever happen in the legal world? Could you sue another university because they were so incompetent? I don't know whether that's possible or whether they'd even win. I would love to see it happen, though. Again, deadly incompetence and the cost. This is what we learned. And this is what, here's the good thing. This is where these kinds of things change. When most of the country wakes up to this and demands change, or you stop sending your kids. By the way, that started to happen too. Apparently, some very high academic recruits, at the Ivy League schools, they go out and they recruit like the smartest kids. They do, because they want them in their university. They've gotten a couple of turndowns after this because of lack of security. That's interesting. But the rest of the country wakes up to this and realizes how incompetent they are. We're realizing this. And it's scary at first. But the first step in the process is realizing how bad the situation is, and then you start to fix it. All right, so we've got that going on. But let's now that we've all followed this story, let's get the tail of the tape so far. You just heard from the university president. Total incompetent. Obviously, can't even ask a question. When enough of these people are exposed every single day and they have to answer questions and don't, you know exactly what they're all about. So you've got her. Clearly, obviously, an incompetent DEI hire. The security cams issue now has been confirmed. Disabled because of public pressure by human rights groups, pro-Palestinian groups, pro-Hamas groups, whatever the hell pro-immigration group, some kind of group pressured them to do that. We know that now. They had no security cameras. They weren't just withholding anything that they had. They had nothing to provide security for these kids, okay? But let's talk about the police chief who you heard of, first of all. Let's talk about this guy. And this is why I talk about this crisis of incompetence. They're a glaring example of it. The scary thing is this is probably every blue city that has a major university in the country. Probably every single one. But Brown has it all, and we saw it every single day. The police chief. Let's see what he's all about. Well, first and foremost, when he got the job, he worked with the mayor, more on him in a second, whose main goal was to diversify the department. That means less white people. We know that now. But, okay, that is what it is. Also has a nephew, this police chief does, who we heard from every single day, who was busted in one of the largest fentanyl rings in Rhode Island state history. He's in jail now serving 22 years. That's the nephew of the police chief. Just throwing that out there. In the press conference, if you paid attention to these, the Providence City Council chief of staff showed up a couple of times. He or she, well, I don't know what it is, because it's a genderless, bisexual that was also arrested earlier at a Trump Tower protest. Providence City Council Chief of Staff. Again, I'm just throwing all these out there. And then you got Mayor Smiley. You heard Mayor Smiley, the one who said on day 2, we don't have any more answers for you. We're tired. Okay. A goal to work with the police chief in that department to diversify, less white, and also the entire city administration to diversify as well. So these are the priorities, not security, not safety. And you saw this played out for 6, 7 straight days with these press conferences. Deadly incompetence is what the entire country learned about this. All on display right there. But I'm here to tell you what you always have to ask yourself the question with these horrible stories. What's great about this? What can we take from this? What's great about this is you've been aware of this for a long time, but now trust me, this is a massively followed story. A big chunk of the country is now aware of this kind of incompetence. That's the first step to getting rid of it. That's the first step to demanding people who are competent start to get jobs in major institutions because these people, like what we saw with Brown University and Providence itself, all working together, they ain't it. Absolutely horrible. Oh, and one of their senators, by the way, White House, or what the hell is his name? White Horse, who told everybody to shut up and stop asking questions. So the incompetence from that state and that city and that university pretty much can be expanded to the entire administration. Oh, the whole state. Rhode Island's a mess. But now they're not the only one. It's a wake-up call. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's get to a fun story. But I'll admit it, I said this in the introduction. For me, it's been fun to watch and hear from the very ardent, strong Trump supporters, to hear the reaction to him becoming, he's even been called the POTUS, the pot president. This is very divisive, but he went ahead and he did it because he's interesting in his second term because he doesn't have to get elected again, and he pretty much just does what he knows and feels is right. So this was the announcement yesterday. Let me just give this to you. This was the reclassification of marijuana from a Schedule 1 to something way less dangerous. Here's his reason why as he signed it.
At the same time, the facts compel the federal government to recognize that marijuana can be legitimate in terms of medical applications when carefully administered in some cases. This may include the use as a substitute for addictive and potentially lethal opioid painkillers. And they cause tremendous problems. This can do it in a much lesser way, can make people feel much better that are living through tremendous pain and problems.
Now, I've seen it as soon as this happened, actually before he even made the announcement, because we knew it was coming. And last night, but especially this morning, I saw a lot of comments from very strong Trump account, like Trump surrogates. There are some people who are online and have made a living from just supporting Trump. I mean, that's what they do, and that's fine, whatever. A lot of those particular people saying, Trump has it wrong on this one. He's a great president, but he has it wrong on this one. I get that. Now, listen, let me get this part of it out of the way first before we talk about the benefits. I would agree with you that it's not for everybody, 100%. And if you're somebody that says that driving on the roads, just notice over the past 5 years has gotten worse, blaming that on pot smokers or, marijuana users, THC, I would agree with you too. I think hands down driving has gotten worse because the pot lobby told us for the longest time it doesn't have an effect at all. I don't know about that, okay? Now, with all of that said, and I know there's people still think it's a gateway drug and maybe it is, whatever. There's also the argument that today's pot is not your dad's weed. It's way stronger because they've refined it. They've perfected it. I get that too. But for what he's talking about here, right? When you declassify it and take it off of Schedule 1 or whatever, the most dangerous thing, you can't compare that. You can't put marijuana or THC on the same level as all these other drugs like narcotics. You can't do it. We also know this for a fact, that a lot of people have been helped like that. Cancer patients, people who otherwise would have gone on opioids, people who are in severe pain. He said it right there in the press conference as he's signing that reclassification. He said it right there. That we know for a fact. No matter how you feel about marijuana, it is a hell of a lot better than opioids. People going on opioids, right? And there's also this factor to it. A lot of this push to keep him from doing this is coming from those pharmaceutical companies who want to keep pushing opioids on people. We all remember that. And if you ever saw the movie Dope Sick, they were handing out opioids to people and pain pills like they were Pez dispensers, for Christ's sake. Okay? We know that for a fact as well. And there's another factor in this that he talked about just the other day that I never even realized. If you take it away from the most dangerous drug classification, if you kind of downgrade that a little bit, it also opens up more federal research for the benefits. So I get that people are upset about this, more so than I even expected. I understand that. But there's a lot more benefits to this, what he signed here. And you can't, regardless, you can't classify this thing just as dangerous as those other drugs or opioids. You can't do it. So there he is. That's what he signed. But there was another nugget, same press conference, because he had all the doctors behind him. Dr. Oz was there. One of the questions popped up, and I was so glad it did. This isn't going away because they keep teasing they're going to do something big. And I'm telling you now, as I sit here today on this particular bar stool, if this guy in his administration is able to get Congress off their asses and do something about health care insurance, this is the one. This is the one and only issue that will get your Trump-hating friends and family members or parents or kids to vote for Trump-supported congresspeople and maybe J.D. Vance next. This would get secretly and quietly, this would get them to support this administration if they're able to fix health insurance. Said it again just yesterday. There is a plan in the works, it seems.
Extend these ACA subsidies.
Well, I'd like not to be able to do it. I'd like to get right into this, and I'd ask Oz this question in particular, but I'd like to see us get right into this. I don't know why we have to extend. This could be done rapidly if the Democrats would come along. We have a problem. The insurance companies own the Democrat Party. They own it. And the Democrats having a hard time. They give a lot of money to the Democrats. Very little money to Republicans, by the way. A lot of money to Democrats. And they're going to have to decide, do they want to do the right thing or do they want to be beholden to the, insurance companies? They're making a fortune. I want the money to go to the people. Go ahead, Oz.
Wow. I'm telling you, this is the one. This should be, okay, in a perfect world, if we had our senses about us in this country. We don't right now. It's a lack of common sense. This should be the unifying issue. This should be the one issue. Find me somebody, anybody in your life or somebody you work with, somebody you're friends with online that's like, I think the health insurance industry is doing a great job. Find me one. They don't exist. Everybody hates them. This should be the unifying issue. These greedy bastards that have screwed up this system so badly. This is the one, the unifying issue. I will say this, again, secretly, quietly, this would be the one and only issue that would get your Trump-hating friends or family to actually support this president. They'll never say it out loud, ever. But if they are able to actually fix this during his 3 years left, they would give the thumbs up to this. That would be amazing. The one and only issue, I think anyway. All right, let's get to something fun. First of all, it's Friday. Your weekend is right around the corner. It's also a big, big travel weekend. In fact, one of my little ducklings came home last night. I'm all excited about that. But I will say this. The TSA is doing it. The TSA of all organizations is doing a really good job with public information. Would you have expected the Transportation Security Administration to be good on X? Because I didn't see that coming. But anyway, they are reaching out with answering people's questions, like really well. They're doing that. They're also doing this. They've got a whole tip line for you for things not to do for this very busy travel season. And by the way, they're saying that this is going to be the busiest, not just on the roads, busiest travel season by air of all time. Number one, these are all obvious things. Don't wrap your gifts. If it triggers the alarm, they're going to have to open it. You see that every single year. That's just and these are all obvious, guys. Traveling with food, some like fruitcake, candy canes, chocolates, they can go in your carry-on, liquids and spreadable foods like eggnog. People travel with eggnog, champagne, wine, sauces. You got to be packaged in checked bags. Remember, you need real ID if you didn't get that by now. When you're in doubt, send them a DM. This is what's amazing to me about this. TSA has been active on X for this entire travel season from before Thanksgiving to now. If you got a question of what you can do and you can't bring on a flight, send them a DM to this. Check it out. At Ask TSA, at Ask TSA, or text travel, and the number is 275-872. 275-872. Good for them. Good for them in servicing the public. I think that's fantastic that they're doing that. But traveling with eggnog? Really? I didn't know anybody still drank eggnog, except there's some booze in it or whatever. All right, the big takeaway, what we saw with the whole Brown University thing and the MIT story that's connected now, and everything that happened there up. The reason why people followed this story is more than true crime. It's because most of the nation, outside of you, because you've been aware of this the whole time, most of the nation, for the first real time in real life action, is seeing the deadly consequence of incompetence. And that's how it starts, being aware of that. So that's your takeaway on that. Most importantly, though, it's your weekend. Have a great, safe weekend, especially if you're traveling like we just said. Thanks for finding me. I appreciate you on the live stream. Replay on X. We were just talking about that. And on YouTube, clips on there as well, and on Facebook. And don't forget about the audio podcast about to post in just minutes in real time here as we speak. All your favorite podcasts, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and give me a subscribe and a follow on that as well. On Spotify, you have to press like. That's their follow button. Appreciate you as always. Be safe. Be well. Make it a wicked awesome weekend. I'll talk to you Monday.